You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Shopify. When I started this podcast, I really did have to figure it out all on my own. Scripts, setup, schedules, logos. It was and sometimes can still be very overwhelming. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out but simplifies everything is such a game changer. And for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of e-commerce in the US. From household names like Chamberlain Coffee and Rare Beauty to brands just getting started. They make it easy to get started with your own design studio. They have hundreds of ready-to-use templates to help you build an online store that matches your brand style. You can also get the word out like you have an entire marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/justice. Go to shopify.com/justice. That's shopify.com/justice. I got some news yesterday, and it is the morning, so please excuse my voice. I just find that hopping on here and doing this in a very candid way is so much better than scripting it out. I think that there's a time and place for scripts, and certainly you'll continue to see those in the future. But for things like this, I think to truly convey what it's like to be a family member in true crime, I just need to sit down and record it. No bells, no whistles, no script. So, as you guys know, in March, we did the first ever search for Alissa. This is something that was, oh my goodness, years in the making. We'd been talking about this search and planning for the search for over a year. And of course, out in the desert, we were looking for acclimate weather for us so that we would be safe and the dogs would be safe. And finally, after over a year of planning, we made it happen. We got a bunch of people out into the desert, a bunch of dogs out into the desert, and we did it. We searched these areas that were specifically picked by Alissa's detective. We didn't go randomly. We didn't go based off of what we felt. We were given guidance by law enforcement, which is exactly what we wanted. As much as I would love to explore all the areas I personally feel Alissa may be, I think that going with what law enforcement thought was more important than chasing my whims, if you will, for the very first search. That being said, as you know, I've been pretty tight-lipped about it, and that's because the dogs alerted to something or an area, or I'm not really sure anymore. And let me tell you why. Yesterday, I got an email from Alissa's detective basically saying that whatever the dogs alerted to and whatever style they alerted to, it just wasn't enough for them to follow up, not them or the local police out in California where we were searching. So essentially, even though multiple dogs alerted at the same spot, they've deemed it not enough to take action. And if I'm being honest, as soon as I saw the email preview, I knew. And yeah, I cried. I cried a lot yesterday. But I think overall, there's an acceptance now that this is the way it is in Alissa's case. After years of bringing them Texas EquiSearch and cadaver dog teams and free volunteer searchers and being turned down every single time, finally I went a little bit rogue and used still very, credible organizations to help do this search who were in communication with law enforcement. We had members of law enforcement out there with us. This is just the way it goes in Alyssa's case. I just don't know what to say anymore. It feels a lot like when I interviewed my dad in 2017, and he said, "Come to the deathbed, and I'll give you all the honest answers you want to hear. Oh, wait, actually, I'll confess to anything if they give me lethal injection within 10 days of that confession." That's what this feels like, is like, what more? What more can I possibly do? And at what point does someone who's paid to do this work step in? And I hate to be that way, but at what point do they take something and run with it? I don't know. And I'm not going to lie, right now I'm in the middle of crafting this Nancy Guthrie series, and the irony is not lost on me, I can't imagine in a million years them doing a search where law enforcement told them to search, a dog alerting to an area, and them saying, "No, we're not going to follow up." And I think that's what gets me, is that there's no standard across these cases. I'm not shocked that this happened in Alyssa's case. Alyssa's case has always been treated like this from day one when she was reported missing and no police officer came out to her home, all the way up to the big 2026 where law enforcement tells us to search somewhere, we search, the dogs alert, and they say not good enough. This is another reason I think that I'm so deeply uncomfortable with fundraising, is because I know how this department is. I know how law enforcement is in general with Alyssa's case. And, I don't think it's necessarily them picking on Alissa. I think that it is these older cases where it has to be an insanely good reason for them to put any resources into it. That's just my hypothesis after being the point person on this case for most of my life at this point. All I can do is guess, because there's zero transparency into why they do or don't do what they do. I'll get a vague answer, but when I compare it to other cases, it still doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it goes back to that media pressure. I let it slip during the trial, and I never got it back. Again, if this were a case that were dominating the headlines, right? Again, a Nancy Guthrie, a Gabby Petito, whatever you want to say, I don't think they'd be brushing us off like this. So I do want to apologize to everyone who donated to make this happen. The way it was explained to me was that if the dogs alerted to an area, they would take this seriously and go look. And in my very foolish mind, still my idealistic mind after all these years, I thought, yeah, that makes sense, of course. If we have all these dogs out here and enough of them alert to one area, why wouldn't they want to search? That makes perfect sense to me. And then this happens. So I'm so sorry to everyone who donated. And again, this is why I shy away from fundraisers. I know that times are hard right now, and every dollar, every penny that people give, I know takes away from something else, especially right now. So I'm so sorry. Thank you for donating. If you want your money back, please come to me and I'll give it to you personally. This is not fair. This is not the way that it should have gone. And all I can do is pivot and move forward, which is exactly the plan. I know where this happened. I don't have all the information that was gathered out there, but I have a good amount to pick up and run with it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Even if that's not Alissa out there, that could be someone. And for me, saying that it's not enough to take action, that's not my standard of being a human being. That can be their standard of being a human being or policy or whatever you want to call it, whatever PC term you want to put on it to give excuses to not take action, that's fine. For me, on a basic human level, I'm going to keep going forward with it. Because I think anybody who's been in this position, who's been a part of a long-term cold case like this, decades and decades and decades, it hits different. I mean, this is potentially like the biggest break in Alyssa's case ever. I mean, ever. They've never looked for her. We go out, multiple dogs alert in the same area, and somehow it's not good enough to even follow up on. So the plan is to pivot, move forward, and figure out another way to investigate this. I think at this point, inviting the police is more of a formality in Alyssa's case, and if I can get those answers privately funded, that's fine. I don't need the Phoenix police to say, good job, you did it, and to officially recognize it. I don't need them to help. I think that, I would love for them to help, but I think at this point it's been proven time and time again that their help is not necessary in many, many ways, and this apparently is one of them. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Because again, even if that's not Alissa, it could be somebody. And I don't care who you are, what your background is, how old your case is, what's going on, what your family's like. No person should stay unidentified in this country. If we have the resources to send police officers out to get shoplifters at the Dollar Tree, you cannot convince me that we don't have resources to investigate this. If we have resources to investigate white-collar crime, the rich moving money around, we have money to investigate a missing child. But I'm not in control of how they allocate those funds, so I'll do what I have to do, follow up, and see what I can do to at least bring somebody answers, or at the very least just eliminate this and not make it one more thing I have to think about every day for the rest of my life as a what if. Because I think that's the damage too, right? It's not just that this goes unexplored and, they think it's unlikely to be what we think it could be, right? I think it's the peace of mind for me and checking that off the list and knowing I did everything I could do to fully investigate what was found out there, because as it stands, it has not been investigated. And that's unacceptable. It not being Alissa, I can understand. It not being a person, I can understand. But simply saying, we don't think this is worth investigating, that's not an answer I'm going to accept. So that means I'll go forth and I will investigate it myself, or, most likely hire somebody with the actual skill set to investigate. I think that that's the best move going forward. That way I don't have to live with the what if, so that a future generation someday won't have to pick up my notes and wonder about a what if, and 20 years from now go back and look at that area because the Phoenix Police Department didn't want to use the resources. It's funny. I think people like to assume that detectives and police departments are doing absolutely everything they can to solve these cases all the time. And I used to think that too. But it's not. And that's not the way it works. It's a big game of whoever has the most media gets the most resources. Whoever has the most affluent family members gets the most resources. Whoever is chosen gets the most resources. They are not allocated equally. And while I try to continue to shine a light on that system and, march towards equality there for these cases, I have to do what I can in the background for Alissa, too. So I guess that's what's going on with the search. The dogs, many of them, alerted to this one specific area. And the police once again said, not good enough, we're not going to do anything. I've been here before, and I'll see the other side again. For now, I think the best thing you can do to help Alissa's case is keep sharing it. Because if it was still as big as it used to be, if every video about Alissa was still getting, millions and millions of views, I don't think that this would have been the answer from them. It's heartbreaking. It's a stupid, heartbreaking game that families have to play, but you cannot tell me that they don't have to play it, because we do. Sometimes it comes naturally, right? Sometimes the media picks up a case and it goes insane, and the family doesn't have to do anything for that media momentum, right? But a lot of the times, families just like me are all fighting for the same airtime, and there's just not enough. So please, once again, I'm asking you to share Alissa's case. If you feel like police should investigate when dogs alert to an area of potential human remains, please share Alissa's case. If you think that poor kids from West Phoenix deserve the same resources as Nancy Guthrie in the Catalina foothills of Tucson, please share Alyssa's case. If you feel like you wouldn't have millions and millions and millions of dollars to stimulate the media and do what needs to be done to get media attention in this world, please share Alyssa's case. If you think that missing kids deserve a police officer to show up at the door to take a report and talk to the parents, please share Alyssa's case. I feel like I've been so fortunate in so many ways, and so unfortunate in others, and it's such a hard thing to reconcile, because I am so grateful for everything this community has done, and I think stunned that it's still not enough. Stunned that 25 years after the fact, I had to coordinate the first ever search for a missing child. And really, in the area the detectives immediately wanted to search over 20 years ago. Or about 20 years ago. You have a missing child. Detectives who investigated said, we want to look exactly here because we think we know exactly who did this and possibly where. But we're not going to expend the resources. Meanwhile, a murderer, pedophile, domestic terrorist is still walking the streets free. I don't know. The justice system kind of feels like the public library right now. Like, I can use it, right? With all of its red tape and fees potentially and, all that. Or I can just go buy the damn book myself and get it done. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to bring Alissa home.